We're joined today by Kentucky's former Attorney General, Republican Daniel Cameron. Daniel, thanks so much for taking a few minutes today.
Isaiah, it's always good to be with you, man, and excited for this new setup you guys have.
Yeah.
This is pretty phenomenal.
We like to do the long form,
Yeah,
right, when we can,
of course.
have a kind of an extended conversation,
Sure.
not just about your campaign, but how things have changed over the years. You are somebody who Kentucky knows very, very well. You served as a Kentucky Attorney General, and you ran for governor back in 2023. Fast forward to now, you are running for one of the top seats in this state. Mitch McConnell has had that seat for over 40 years. What do you know today that maybe you didn't know in February of 2025, saying, okay, this is how I need to approach this in the final days?
Well, I don't think there was anything that has sort of been surprising to us necessarily. I do think that there is an increased pace around this campaign in terms of the national interest, and then just the breadth of events that you try to get to. And if you can't get to, you're trying to get surrogates to. And to your point, I mean, this seat hasn't been open since 1984, and it's the people's seat, and the people want to see you, hear from you, and have dialogue and conversation with you. And so there's very much just an energy around this race that has grown every week, candidly. It feels like just the intensity around it just continues to grow, and the people that are sort of forecasting or sort of analyzing it. So yeah, it certainly has picked up in terms of the pace of just how many events we're doing and how many people you're trying to get in front of.
I asked Senator Rand Paul, who's soon to be senior senator in Kentucky, who he would like to be, or essentially asked for his sort of take on the Republican side of this race, who he might be backing. And he actually said your name. He said he's not going to make an endorsement. He's not going to be any campaign ads, but he says he's leaning toward voting for you because he says, and I'm quoting here, you are the only one of the three Republicans who I think has shown any sort of ability to put forward a platform. I'm sure this isn't news to you. You've talked with Senator Paul, but your thoughts on hearing this?
Well, what I've said since day one is there is a lot of room within Team Cameron to have support from across the Republican political spectrum, and I'm thankful to Senator Paul, who's seemingly said that he intends to vote for me, and it just underscores the case that you can find a home. I mean, I get asked sometime about some of the liberty-minded Republicans that have endorsed this campaign, or I point to others that have endorsed, or Kentucky Right to Life that is endorsed. There is a movement afoot within this Commonwealth to jump to a campaign that is about common sense values, about ensuring that when it comes to your constitutional rights, someone in Washington is looking out for that. I happen to have a track record on that front of standing firm for those values, and we feel very strongly that people continue to join this effort and this campaign. I'm excited about where we are, and again, his support just reiterates the fact that this is a big tent movement that we've put together, and folks of all stripes within the Republican Party are coming along for this journey with us, and that's why I'm going to be the nominee come May 19th.
You just released your first campaign ad that isn't PAC affiliate, like your campaign ad last week, but you've seen Andy Barr and Nate Morris go back and forth for a while. There is a clear difference in sort of the messaging and the theme, in my perspective, where you have sort of President Trump is central to both of their ads. I don't believe you even named President Trump. I saw a clip, he was in there, but you took a different tone to it. Why? And explain sort of the strategy here.
Well, look, we at the end of the day, I mean, you hope to be able to put out several messages during a campaign. So I think you'll see a message from us here soon that is, a focal point of that is the America First agenda and standing firm for that agenda and with President Trump. But when it came to the first ad, I think a lot of folks, in my judgment, have gotten tired of the mudslinging, and they just want to see, a fresh face, someone who is speaking to the issues that they care about. And that's what we tried to do in that first ad. And I think it's gone over well with people as I've talked to folks, whether at church on Sunday or if I see them at events. or just at the grocery store, people said, "Hey, we really like your ad, and it you're staying positive. You're not getting down into the mud with the other two guys." And I think that's a reflection of who I am as a person. As I've said a lot, my identity is in Christ, and I'm trying to articulate a message back to Senator Paul on the stuff that people care about, whether it's making sure we keep their taxes low, or energy independence, or standing firm for law enforcement, or looking out for our farmers and making sure we have a new farm bill, or immigration, saving the Save America Act and making sure that gets passed. I mean, I'm talking about these things daily. PBMs, making sure we reform that process so that independent pharmacists aren't pushed out of the market. These are the issues that I've focused on, and that first ad was a really attempt to say, hey, I'm here. You've gotten to know me and my family, and we certainly would be honored to have your support in this campaign.
Obviously, when you served as Attorney General, you had statewide reach. So you learned probably about communities that you didn't know as much about, going to U of L, growing up in Elizabethtown, just south of us here, now living in Oldham County. But let's talk about our area for a second, central to here. How important is Jefferson County to the outcome of this race? Because you do hear from some Republicans who say, hey, if we lose 60-40 in the two biggest cities and win everywhere else, we're good. How do you view the importance of Louisville in this race as a Republican?
Well, Jefferson County is critical. I mean, Isaiah, you know this. I mean, it's why I've been going all over the state. I mean, it's why I showed up in the West End of Louisville a few weeks ago.
I remember that, the Bishop's Table. Yeah.
And so I'm, I've shared with people that I'm willing to go anywhere, and whether that's with Renee Shaw on KET and I'm by myself there, or if it's, standing on a podium on a stage at Hillbilly Days in Pikeville, or if it's being at the Bishop's Table in West Louisville, I'm going to show up. And I think people, sometimes, look, Paul writes in Scripture that in some places you'll be well received and others you won't, but at the end of the day, you shake the dust off your sandals and you move to the next town. That's what I've tried to do, is just continue to talk about the issues that people care about. And frankly, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, and, as I talk to majority Republican primary voters, I say, look, this isn't about Republican versus Democrat. A lot of this is about crazy versus normal. And what I'm trying to articulate is normal, common sense, everyday values that people around the dinner table talk about when it comes to the issues that they see and they're confronting. And, that's why I feel, whether it's Jefferson County or any community, any of our 120 counties, you got to show up and you got to be willing to have the conversations that I'm trying to have with voters.
Speaking on the west end of Louisville, how significant was your appearance there to you, just as Daniel Cameron, just knowing that not only is West Louisville generally votes blue, but we know that there were some folks, and I was looking at the video, who were there who may have been protesting in the summer of 2020, some of them protesting specifically some of your decisions. Yeah. And we know the history with them, some protesters showing up on your front lawn. I mean, how significant was it for you to show up that day, knowing that maybe not everyone would be clapping for you?
Well, it's back to my earlier point, is you're not going to always be received well, but I hope at the end of the day people respect that I showed up in that room. And what I said to folks there that day is, look, I'm not here for a political spiel. I'm here as a brother in Christ and somebody who cares about this community and wants to see every part of Jefferson County thrive. That's critical, and I think I've got a responsibility as a senator to ensure that, and that was part of my message that morning, and why I was there, and again, why I will continue to show up in places all across this Commonwealth, because everybody deserves good, strong representation that is looking out for ways in which we can make sure every community thrives.
A few more questions here. Again, we are sitting down one-on-one with Daniel Cameron, of course, Kentucky's former Attorney General and Republican U.S. Senate candidate. I want to talk about the Democrats a little bit. I mean, you actually had a moment with Charles Booker there at the Bishop's Table where you guys kind of embraced for a second, chatted for a little bit. I mean, you and Charles are no stranger to running for races in this state. I mean, do you see him as the front runner on that side?
Well, look, I'll make sure that the Democrats, have their opportunity to make that judgment and decision on May 19th. But at the end of the day, you can't take for granted whoever comes out of, that primary. And you got to work your tail off and got to get to as many places as possible. I'm confident when I'm the nominee for this party that I'm going to win in November. but you got to work hard. And I've got a message I think that will resonate across Kentucky. But yeah, look obviously forward to seeing who will ultimately come out on that side.
Yeah, I want to touch on Mitch McConnell. That not necessarily just his legacy and what the seat means, but also your relationship with him. I mean, you have been clear that he's somebody who, of course, you mentored you, right? I mean, you worked sort of in his realm for a while, and it seemed in many ways when you ran for governor, and even this in the future, that he was somebody who is going to support your path. But it seems clear to me that maybe that relationship isn't what it once was. I mean, can you tell us here right now? I mean, are you pretty much operating without that support of the McConnell team at this point? And if you could shed some light on that.
Well, yeah, as I've obviously said before, some folks on his team got upset when I said he was wrong about some votes related to Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth,
confirmations,
and
yeah,
RFK Jr. And some people on his team didn't like that, and there was sort of a mad dash to support Andy Barr. But what I've said is it's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, folks have to make a decision about who they're going to pick in a primary, and those are tough decisions that are made. But we feel very good about our campaign and the people that have gravitated to it. And we don't have millionaires and billionaires supporting the campaign, but at the end of the day, we have the trust and support of people here in Kentucky. And I've got, when it comes to resources, we're going to have the resources to win. And I've got more Kentucky donors than anybody else in this race, and so we're in a strong position. Again, as I mentioned earlier, folks are going to make decisions about who they want to support, and a lot of the McConnell team decided to support Andy Barr. But at the end of the day, as I said in 2020 when I stood at the RNC convention on behalf of President Trump, I'm my own man, and I make my own decisions. And what you're going to get in Washington is somebody who's going to stand firm for the constitutional rights of our citizens.
To some degree, do you feel like you're more free to make decisions that you've called your team sort of the small and mighty team, right? You name 3 or 4 folks at every press conference. You're like, we're doing this together. Do you feel a little more free, maybe without sort of all that influence and that many hands in the pot, to kind of do what you feel like you want to do for this campaign and want to focus on?
Well, I think the great sort of misunderstanding, if you will, is I've never been sort of the establishment person. I know I've gotten sort of tagged as that, but the candor and truth is that until I was a senior in college, I'd never been to a Lincoln dinner, and obviously worked in D.C. for a couple of years, and but when I ran for Attorney General in 2019, no one really knew who I was. It was just a lot of shoe leather and banging on doors and asking people to support the campaign that we ultimately came out victorious there. And I think it was a surprise to a lot of people within the Republican establishment when I ran for governor in 2023. Again, I didn't ask anyone's permission. I just made the decision that it was better to be on offense than defense, meaning that I could tell the governor that he couldn't shut down churches, and I did that. I stood on the steps of the Capitol and said that was a violation of the First Amendment. And then the very next day, he shut down churches. And ultimately, we got into court and got churches reopened after 9 days, but it was a difference of going from defense to offense. But I didn't, run that decision by anybody other than, talking to my wife and, our families about what it looks like to run in that race. But that's, I think, been sort of the part that has been, misconstrued in the sense of who makes the decisions. I've always made the decisions about running, whether it was this race, whether it was the governor's race or the attorney general's race. I've always been, very strongly, relying on my relationship with Christ and praying about these decisions and talking to, obviously, my wife, Mackenzie, because it's a family affair. And, whether it's Grams and Papa D, who are my in-laws, or Glammy, my mom, who are helping with the boys or knocking doors or putting out signs, it's very much a family affair. And, those are the people that I rely on when we're making these decisions.
Last couple rapid-fire questions before I let you go. The McConnell statue has gotten a lot of attention. The Kentucky legislature has moved forward to sort of make that a reality. Is that something you think is appropriate and earned and the right move?
Well, let me say this. I, have seen Senator McConnell work under considerable fire. And, when I worked in D.C., it was the fateful decision to not hear the Merrick Garlick nomination. And Senator McConnell made that decision. And because of it, we have the Supreme Court that we have today, one that is standing firm for the Constitution. And so he is to be honored for that decision to support, the decision that he made not to hear that nomination. And in many ways, it changed the trajectory of the United States Supreme Court.
And finally, economic development, with this mayor currently in place, this governor, that seems obviously is almost every day a top or top two priority. What is, if you were elected to be the next U.S. Senator, we talk about all the money that Mitch McConnell has brought back to U of L, UK, a lot of different infrastructure projects. Is there one economic development project that you have on the back of your mind to say, this is something that I could help with if I were elected?
Well, I think there are ample opportunities when you look at coal, natural gas, and the provisions of nuclear that are being made in West Kentucky. You're going to have an ecosystem around that, whether it's the increased generation of coal to help with some of the new technologies that are coming online, whether it's the nuclear down in West Kentucky. We're going to need. And we're grateful that here in Louisville we have a logistics hub. In Northern Kentucky they have a logistics hub as well that can help us transport some of the energy that's necessary to fuel these technologies of the future. And so I think we can continue to grow in Jefferson County simply because of our capability as a logistics hub. And I want to be a supporter of that in the United States Senate. And then as a broader matter, when it comes to how do we ensure people thrive here in Kentucky, keep your taxes low, make sure you have more of your hard-earned money in your pocket, and look out for job creation. And I think a senator has the capability to be a convening authority, to bring people to a room and say, hey, what is necessary to get you to move to Kentucky? And I want to be a part of that conversation.
Daniel Cameron, former Kentucky Attorney General, as well as Republican candidate for U.S. Senate. The primary is May 19th.
May 19th, my friend.
Daniel, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, Isaiah.
We appreciate it.
Right.
And thank you for joining us.